Welcome to another episode of Investing in Intellectual Property with Dave. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This gentleman has created a product that allows you to avoid mess while performing activities such as working on your laptop or playing video games while eating. He was featured on the hit show Shark Tank, where he was able to secure a deal with Lori as well as Kevin Hart on his product. Please help me welcome the co-founder of Snacktiv, Kevin Choi. Choi, I'm sorry. How's it going, Kevin?
How's it going, guys?
And I typically ask this, and I didn't ask it, so I apologize as far as making sure if it's like a last name that I'm like, I don't want to pronounce it wrong, I'll ask. But I did it this time around, so I apologize for that. I know earlier on in the week I interviewed a gentleman who was from Denmark, and he had a last name that I maybe didn't recognize. And I like I said, I typically ask beforehand, but I apologize on that. But again, welcome. I appreciate you for, I guess, giving me some time here today and kind of with the interview and kind of going through your journey, talking about your journey. I know we were doing a lot of talking offline, and you have a pretty interesting journey and just kind of the ups and downs and the things that you've experienced along the way. I guess what I always like to do in starting off with is for you to explain, Kev, you can kind of give a description or explanation of your product to the audience so that they kind of understand a little better what do your product consist of.
Yeah. So the product here that I invented is called Snacktiv. It's a snacking tool of the future, we call it, but it allows you to snack while enjoying the activities that you normally enjoy, right? A lot of gamers, you see them gaming and snacking at the same time. So there's always a little bowl of hot Cheetos in front of my desk. So as you're snacking, your hands are completely mobile and free. So now you can snack, go back into your game, go back into your keyboard, your mouse clicking, whatever you need to do, right? So that's pretty much the gist of the product, guys.
No, and that's pretty cool, man. Just to even have the classic hot Cheetos, man. That was for me, especially growing up, man. I have to have a bag of hot Cheetos on deck just in case you needed to break that open, man. My diet doesn't allow it these days. But back in the day, man, I'll tear up a bag of hot Cheetos for sure. So I guess that's cool. So I guess before creating your product, it seems like you, as well as your co-founder, did a lot of things for Mattel, Disney, and Marvel, which seems like I had a gentleman on who actually I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure you heard of the selfie stick.
Yep.
Wayne Fromm, the inventor of it, he also did a lot of stuff for Disney as far as kind of developing products and toys for them. Was it like a particular point in time when you guys were going through that process, working with these different companies to say, hey, we need to do something on our own? Or like, what was that like? Or in other words, what was the inspiration for the product? Was it like the light bulb just went off, or did you guys maybe get tired of working with those other companies? What was the inspiration for the product?
Yeah, no, definitely didn't get tired of working for, the toy companies, right? It's always awesome working with Disney or at Mattel. Like the environment that you would think, the office environment that you would normally think of is totally different when you're at a toy company. It's a lot more fun, a lot more relaxed. Well, you still have to grind, but it's sometimes you'll see people, going around with Nerf guns and shooting at each other at the office, right? It's fun like that, right?
Nice.
But yeah, it was sort of a accidental and
really,
light bulb that just went on, right? Like I found myself snacking constantly in front of my desk while doing work or while designing. So, at one point I got so frustrated because I was using chopsticks, and I know everyone uses chopsticks when they're, snacking in front of their desks. But one thing I realized is the inefficiency of me having to pick up my chopsticks, grab the snack, place the chopsticks back down, and then go back to work. And I'm like, why don't I just attach these chopsticks on top of my finger and, and so my first prototype was literally me taping the chopsticks. Yeah, it was. And obviously it didn't really work. It needed some sort of hinge support.
Yep.
So that's when I just that's when me and my one of my co-founders that co-invented Snacktiv with me. He still works at Mattel. He's in the Hot Wheels team.
Oh, okay.
He's the design engineer for the Hot Wheels
Nice.
brand. So, but he and I just put our brains together, and we just started developing it. We 3D printed our first prototype. Like, dude, we got something here, right? So that's
So what was your background? I know you said your other co-founder was a design engineer. What was your particular background?
So my background is industrial design. So
Okay.
I design products and / invent products, I guess. So yeah. So I do a lot of, developing products from concept stage to manufacturing. The whole shebang.
No, for sure. No, that's cool. And I guess I had asked that question because a lot of times when people, because inventing is not just, and obviously it helps if you have a design engineering degree or industrial design or some type of background in design or engineering. However, the good thing about inventing and kind of starting a business is that you don't necessarily have to have that background to, invent something and start a business based off your product. A lot of times, at least when I'm interviewing, you guys as inventors or entrepreneurs, a lot of times they're solving for a problem. Like you were frustrated with having to try to not make a mess when you're maybe gaming, and therefore you're taping chopsticks to the hand, and like, hold on, I maybe have something here, and next thing you know, you have an actual product, but you're also you're ultimately developing that product to solve a problem. And it seems like that's like the common thing with all inventors is that they're either trying to solve a problem that they're personally going through on a day-to-day basis, which I guess what having is other people are most likely going through that same issue as well, or they're kind of backed up against the wall, maybe got fired from the job, and they need to kind of do something to kind of produce some income, and next thing you know, they end up inventing a product. But it seems like a lot of people are in that first bucket where, man, they're just constantly encountering a daily problem, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to develop something to kind of solve for this problem, which I would imagine happens more than what people think. But the difference between you and just the regular person that's out there, you did something about it to say, hey, I'm going to create a product out of it, as opposed to maybe kind of doing it for yourself or not doing anything at all, maybe having this issue, and okay, you had the chopsticks and you maybe solved for the problem, but as opposed to kind of giving it out to the world, you just kind of keep it for yourself. What was that point like to say, okay, or why did you decide, okay, this is something that we can build a business around?
Right. I mean, I've always wanted to start my own company one day, right? But I knew that starting a company without knowledge or experience in the workforce would be, very challenging, because it's already challenging to start a business to begin with. So, I wanted to make sure that I worked in the industry to get enough of a grasp of an idea and how to run a business. Even though I was a designer, I was always very curious of knowing how things worked within the business, right? Not just focusing on the design portion of things, right? Yeah, I mean, you have to really fall in love with the problem and not force a problem. Like, because I see some people, after I went on Shark Tank, I see a lot of people emailing us saying, hey, I have this great invention idea. Can you take a look at it? Can you give me some feedback? And these are just random people that, email us after they saw us air on Shark Tank. And I feel like a lot of them are sort of going in this path of, like, I want to make millions one day, right? But it's never like, I really hate this problem. I need to solve it.
I like that.
Right. So I think once I understood that I freaking hated this problem of, not being able to streamline my snacking experience while I'm working or gaming, that's when just light bulb went on. Like, I know this is going to do well. So let's dive in and let's just, make it happen. Right. But not every no matter how great your idea is, I just want to point out, I know this is a podcast about patents, but if you don't have the right marketing team or the right marketing strategy, it's still not going to sell as well as you want it to, right? So always keep in mind, good invention, marketing, you need someone out there that knows how to sell it for you. Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's a good point. I know I've been lately doing these Shark Tank reaction videos where, based on the Shark Tank pitches, I'll go through and react it from an IP perspective and kind of just see if they're kind of protecting their intellectual property or just identify the different IP that's involved with the product, as well as, okay, if you have a name and it's a trademark and things like that. But I guess the three things that I always say is, hey, if you have an idea that's simple, that's effective in terms of really solving a problem, and then the market is there, it's not like too niche of a market or the market is not oversaturated. And obviously, like you said, you have somebody help you with the marketing. If that's not your background, then you have the chances of kind of really having something at that point. So, I mean, I definitely agree with you on the marketing at that point. So
right.
It seems like you and your co-founder having those industrial and design engineering backgrounds, how did you guys approach the marketing aspect of it? And again, this is another good thing for me as I get a chance to talk to you all as inventors, because it seems like a fair amount of you all have kind of went through the Kickstarter route, and some going through the Kickstarter route have hired marketing agencies to kind of help things and kind of develop the product and kind of get it out there before actually going live on Kickstarter. Is that something that you experienced, or did you go another route to help out with the market?
No, yeah, we started with Kickstarter, like many do, right? And we did hire a marketing agency during those times. But I feel like even till this day, I don't think I've figured out what our whole how the whole marketing things works. But I entrust these people that I hired to do it. Sometimes I have to kind of go through a cycle of different agencies just to see which performs the best, right? Yeah. But yeah, I feel like as long as you fully you understand the value proposition of your product and you understand your audience, you could really end up creating some amazing videos for TikTok or whatnot, right? So we're doing a lot of reaching out to micro influencers these days. So exchanging free product for some content, and then that's just kind of like how we're exposing the world little by little by sending it out to all these micro influencers and spreading the word about Snacktiv, right? Obviously, it definitely helps to be on TV. Nothing has been more amazing than being on Shark Tank and seeing, your sales going from like $2,000 a day to all of a sudden that one day it airs is like $250,000, right? Like it just skyrockets like crazy, and then eventually it trickles down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I didn't know people watch TV because I'm not I don't watch TV much.
Sure.
So, when I was so shocked that that's how many sales came in on the day that we aired. And maybe it's just because I can't relate to people that watch TV, right? But, yeah, but that was...
No, I was going to say, yeah, it seems like, because I'm a big sports guy, so I kind of watch TV, or I have YouTube TV. I watch it for the sports aspect of it, because I can't watch live sports otherwise. So outside of that, it's not too much. I'm not kind of necessarily sitting down and watching a series of shows or whatever the case may be. It's unfortunately there's too much going on in life to try to sit down for 2 or 3 hours and do that. But yeah, I mean, Shark Tank is one of those shows, and that it seems like, kind of from what maybe Mark Cuban or whoever said, it seems like maybe initially when it first aired, it was like 14, it was like massive, and it still has millions of people that watch it, but not as much as it once was. But it still seems like it has that a good effect or a positive effect of kind of people going on to the show and just because of the publicity. And,
for sure.
And it seems like, even going back to what you were saying with the micro influencers, that's kind of obviously it's going to be less than kind of paying an agency or whatever the case may be. But it seems like sometimes that's just kind of the best route to go, maybe, as opposed to, like you said, a lot of people maybe aren't kind of really watching kind of TV and getting ads from that perspective. But, obviously we know a lot of people are on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever the case may be. So if you can have these influencers kind of talking about the product, showing the product, and to their audience, maybe it seems like that's another way to go, which a lot of times they end up kind of working out really well for just an entrepreneur or the business.
Sorry, was there a question there?
No. I was just kind of making a point there. So I'm not,
All right.
no,
Okay.
no, no. But this is a question right here. So I know we were talking offline about the IP. How was that process at the beginning? Because it seems like just kind of working with Mattel, Disney. I'm not sure how much you guys kind of participated in the patent process with those companies when developing, designing products, and
Yeah.
knew anything about it. But I guess as you came up with your product and it's like, okay, it's time to protect it. Obviously, we talked about maybe some stories as far as not getting everything protected from the get go. But I guess how did you learn and kind of really navigate that process as it relates to IP when it was time to protect it?
I gotta say, I thought we were already recording when we talked about the whole patent
Right on,
stuff.
right on.
So now, but let's dive into the whole patent stuff again. But I mean, not so much when I was at Disney, but Mattel. Yes, I worked with a lot of patent attorneys. Mostly we only worked, on acquiring the utility patents. I feel like design patent, especially when it comes to a toy, like, if we design a cool looking boat, I feel like anyone could just change the boat to look a little bit slightly different and it'll be, okay, right? So I don't think they focus too much on design patents, all right? So I think that's the reason why when I first thought of Snacktiv, I focused more on the utility patent. And as I mentioned before, I found out months later that when I, changed the power of attorney to these new lawyers, they told me, "Hey, you need a design patent because we can do takedowns a lot faster and easier if you have a design patent, right?" And that goes back to what I was saying. Like when I first hired my initial lawyer, he had no he has really good experience in writing up a patent and submitting creating these patents for us, but he had no experience doing litigations or takedowns or any of that, right? So he didn't give me the advice of like you should do a design patent. It's going to really help you. I'm sure maybe he knew, but maybe he just thought right.
And I was going to say, that's something that's not a litigation issue. I think if you're a patent attorney and you draft patent applications, you should be able to identify when the design of a product is just as important, or if maybe not more important than the utility aspect of it, and at least give your client that option. Now, if they don't want to spend the additional money because the utility plan is already expensive enough, then that's one thing. But you should definitely let them know, hey, you'll probably make out a little better, or it'll even kind of strengthen your protection, being able to get this design patent on a product.
Right. And you brought up a good point, right? Sometimes, we don't have the money to do all the patents in the beginning, right? Especially when we're like trying to launch this new product. Luckily for me, I didn't have to hire a designer or an engineer because we already have that background, right?
For sure,
but we prototyped everything ourselves. We designed everything ourselves, right? So most of our cost in the beginning, it came from all the patents that we're doing. But still, it's still a lot of money. It's still a lot of money. So save up if you have some good ideas, right?
And I guess kind of just continue to unpeel the patent side of things. You guys had really different from what you would see in a lot of cases first, because a lot of times people want to sell in the U.S. here. That's like the main market. I was interviewing a guy a couple of days ago. He was from Denmark. And he has his company, Denmark Aerofit in Denmark, which is a breathing device. But he's like, everybody, obviously our biggest market is the U.S. I mean, we kind of do stuff here in Germany and other parts of Europe, but our U.S. market is the biggest market, makes the most money. So a lot of people want to, sell here in the U.S. So they obviously going to protect it if they're going to sell it. But you guys actually filed a PCT application because you were doing a lot of stuff abroad, and going in a different country. So I guess can you talk a little bit about that process and kind of the mindset to say, okay, as opposed to just doing a U.S. application, we're going to do a PCT application, and then obviously we can go into these different countries, whether it's U.S. or China or India or Germany, as we kind of see fit based on kind of the business.
Yeah, man, you did your research, huh? You even know that I did a PCT application. Wow. But it's been a while. But I think the PCT application sort of functions as a provisional patent for the whole entire globe, right?
Yeah, no, it's more so like almost a placeholder. So, a provisional application, at least the way I think of a provisional application as a patent attorney, that's really a true placeholder. Get your place in line. We don't look at it. So in the U.S., if you file a provisional, that doesn't get examined at all. It's just to put your place in line, and then obviously, as you know, you have to convert it to a non-provisional within a year. However, a PCT application, which is and I guess you can think of as an international patent application. There's no such thing as an international patent, but it's almost an international patent application, but that does get examined. So whatever your office is that you sit, whether it's the U.S. or the EPO is another common one, they will do a search and examine that patent application in light of what's out there. But that's, I guess, my distinguishing feature as far as it not being a provisional, just because it does get examined, but it's not. It doesn't get issued such that it's an international patent. You do have some time to kind of decide what country you want to go in specifically. But yeah, it serves, I would say, maybe a placeholder until you kind of have to make that determination of what country.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I kind of compared it to a provisional patent.
Yep.
Just kind of,
I got you.
Lets me, it puts a foot on the door, letting everyone know globally that hey, right. But I think the PCT application expires pretty early on, right? I don't. It's been so long that I can't remember. But...
Oh yeah, for sure. And actually, a PCT application, the unfortunate thing, which I would imagine that is it's expensive. It's very expensive.
Right.
But the good thing is it does give you time. So like I said, with the provisional, it gives you, in the U.S., you have 12 months to convert it from a provisional to a non-provisional. However, a PCT application, you have 30 months, which is over 2 years, 2 years and 6 months. So 2.5 years before decide, 2.5 years from the early priority date before you decide what you want to go in.
Man, it's been so long, but now I'm starting to kind of remember. And yeah, I think within the 30 months, we started sort of, because when we launched on Kickstarter and on our website the first year, we had all the countries open. So we kind of already have a little bit of data and understanding which countries are going to really want Snacktiv, right? So I think I focused my PCT application, or I focused my energy towards getting these utility patents at these other countries based on that data, right? I didn't go and do all the countries because like, even though I seen like, the Philippines doing so, like there was a lot of traffic coming from the Philippines, right? But then you have to ask yourself, like, can you sell to the Philippines when they're minimum, what do you call it? The minimum wage, or their minimum wage is $1 an hour, right? Like, will they buy something that's $14.99? That's this, right? And that's where my knockoffs come in and help sell to these other countries, right? Of course, I hate that I have to deal with these knockoffs. Imagine I don't have any knockoffs. I bet you I could, produce 1 million of these per order and get the cost down, like to the point where, it is selling at, whatever price my knockoffs are selling it at, right?
Sure.
But that's sort of the competition that I'm dealing with. And obviously our knockoffs don't actually do their marketing as much as, they don't put that much marketing efforts as much as we do. But anyway, sorry, I'm going off topic. But,
well, yeah, they're trying to just ride a wave at that point and maybe make a quick buck. So I guess what countries did you, like, are you guys kind of doing the most? Obviously, I would imagine U.S. is one of those countries.
Yeah, U.S. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to say what other countries outside of the U.S. are.
So we noticed Korea being one of the biggest traffics coming into our website, right? So we got a utility patent in Korea. I should probably open some folders to see what other patents we got. Sorry.
Well, like I said, I would imagine that as running a business, this is, and maybe early on in the process as you're trying to protect it in different countries and working with the IP attorney, this may be a big thing. But then as you kind of get the patents granted, then it's kind of I can see it not being on the forefront of your head in terms of having other things to worry about as it relates to the business.
Right. And, we actually, so we actually, even though the PCT gives you about 30 months, right? Like we actually started, going after Korea and Japan and, trying to acquire these utility patents. But then in the case of Japan, they have now starting to kind of like remember things. But in Japan's case, they have like some sort of grace period. Like if it's not filed within 12 months, it's not, considered genuine or whatever not.
Right.
So like even though the PCT gives you 30 months to, apply for these utility patents in other countries, there are different rules that are placed in each country. So you have to make sure you know those things, right? Again, like you have to really consider though, like, is it worth going through all the trouble of getting utility patents in all these countries? Because as long as you have the US and maybe the UK or Europe,
Yep.
like that's going to be all you really need, to be honest.
The majority of your sales, I would imagine, come from those countries.
Right. USA is the number one country that spends the most money on useless things. So like, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but yeah, like you want to have a US patent, right? That's where your main focus should be, to be honest. And surprisingly, when I spoke to Lori, because I never thought getting a patent in China was important, but when we made a deal with Lori on the show, on Shark Tank, I spoke to them right after when we're still in our trailers, and they're like, hey, do you have your patents here in China and all the manufacturing countries, Vietnam? And I'm like, no, why do we need it? Like, aren't they just going to copy us anyways? But then it seemed very important to them that we have those patents in those countries that manufacture.
Yep.
So that's something I didn't know about. I think I applied for a few, but I can't remember exactly.
And again, I think that's another part from just an attorney perspective, just to let you know. I mean, I interviewed Nancy Tedeschi, who had the Snap-it screw, and she's made a ton of money just licensing this thing out to, I think, the world's largest NAS distributor in the world, which they did an exclusive license agreement for the duration of the patent. And she wasn't going to go into China because she's like, hey, maybe similar thoughts that you had. Hey, they're going to just knock it off anyway. And her patent attorney like, no, you have to go into China. And she's like, I'm glad I went into China because she's been able to successfully defend her patent in China on multiple occasions. And it's for a fraction of the cost that you would have to defend it here in the U.S. I mean, obviously, as you know, defending a patent in the U.S. costs a lot of money. But according to, from when she was on the show talking about her experience, it's a fraction of the cost here in China being able to defend it. And she was able to successfully defend it in China, which was a game changer for her. And she was like, I'm glad I listened to my patent attorney at that point, because I was not going to go into China. So that's why, I mean, I again, a big part of this, and obviously kind of going through your guys' stories, whatnot, is a good thing, and kind of talking about, I guess, the backgrounds and going through it. But another big part of it is just kind of really having a good patent attorney at the beginning who's going to mention all this stuff to you. Again, if you decide to maybe kind of go against it, at least you know the information. So later on, when it comes down to it, you can be like, oh, why would I do this? Or, no, my attorney never told me that. At least you like, okay, yeah, my attorney did give me, I can go in China and, okay, you're maybe not going to sell, but it's a big manufacturing market, and therefore, you can get knockoffs taken down and do it for less less of the money. So I don't know. I think maybe as an attorney, that's why it's just important to have a good attorney when kind of going through this process, because they can tell you about the design patents as well as manufacturing and wherever you manufacture things, to be able to kind of protect it there so you can get the knockoffs taken down. So I mean that's and it seems like Lori, she's the one on Shark Tank as I'm kind of looking through it, and she's the big one on patents. Like, do you have a patent? Are you protecting here? So that's cool for her. And I do want to get off into more of the Shark Tank, that kind of journey here in a little bit. But I do want to ask you another thing, because from my understanding, you guys did something that a lot of people don't see in terms of going through the acceleration program here in the U.S.
Oh, right. Yes.
What made you guys do that? Because a lot of people don't know about. So for people just for the audience, typically when you file a patent application, it's going to take you, I would probably say, a year to 2 years for the application to get examined. It can be, a year and a half to 2 years before the patent application get examined. It can be sooner than that. It can be later than that. But typically within a year and a half to 2 years, you're going to get some type of office action from the USPTO. But if you do work with acceleration program, they're going to do it within a year. But that costs a lot more money to kind of go through that process. So you don't see that process happen a lot. A lot where patent owners are like, hey, I want to go through the acceleration process and I'll pay $5,000 if I'm a large entity, or $2,400, $2,500 if I'm a small entity. So what made you guys kind of accelerate things here in the U.S.?
Right. I mean, we wanted to just have our patent right away, right? So yeah, luckily we were able to, I think it was 6 months when our examiner started examining our patents, right? But, in the end, we went through 2 continuations. So our acceleration didn't matter at that point, right? Because we had to do a and for those who don't know, right, we have our first draft, right, of our patents, and we get that approved, and that one had the acceleration. So we got that approved early on, but, our lawyers thought, the patent's not strong enough. Let's make it even stronger. So then that's when we did a continuation, right? With the continuation, the acceleration isn't there anymore, I think. So I think it was just taking a little bit longer and longer. So I think, I don't know if I didn't rush it. I don't know if I even had to do a whole continuation or not, but it seems like sometimes everything is in hindsight. Sometimes you don't notice things that you should have written on the patent draft beforehand, but everything is hindsight sometimes. But yeah, I mean, in the end,
Go ahead.
Yeah, in the end, I think we have a strong utility now, and we're actually on the verge of closing out our second continuation.
Nice.
So it should be a lot stronger. But again, like I said, we mostly use our design patent to do most of the takedowns and our copyrights and our trademarks. And I just wanted to touch base on this too, because this is something my first lawyer did not mention to me, and it would have been helpful if he did. But it was the Madrid protocol and the Hague, right? If you do a Hague and a Madrid, you can bundle up all these countries to have a design patent in all of these different countries for the price of like $10,000, right? And just doing it in the EU, that's already covering like 35 countries, right? So, when we did the Hague, we thought, oh, amazing, $10,000 to get like 40 countries. Cool. Am I saying it right? The Hague is the design patent, and then the Madrid protocol is for the trademarks, right?
Yep. Madrid is for trademarks in various countries, and and then the Hague is for the design, and and again, to the extent that you're selling a lot of this stuff abroad, that's when you definitely want to get your design and the utility protected in other countries, as well as a trademark. I know a lot of times people think that, okay, I get a U.S. patent or a U.S. trademark, that's going to protect you here in the U.S. But if you want to protect your stuff in other countries, you see this a lot more so. And this is actually pretty cool that you guys been able to go through the process, because you see it a lot with bigger countries, say the Nike, say maybe countries who are operating abroad, not just in the U.S. You see those protecting their trademarks and designs and stuff like that in a lot more other countries outside of the U.S. You typically don't maybe see it too much with, maybe companies, maybe like smaller companies compared to like Nike and some of those bigger companies. But yeah, when it is means that in which you can kind of protect the trademark, not only the patent, but the trademark as well as the design in various countries, which it seems like you guys have done, which is pretty cool.
Right. Yeah.
So then I know you talked about Lori and the whole Shark Tank, getting off into that a little bit. What was the thought process to say, okay, man, we need to take this thing in a Shark Tank? Because like you said, it seems like sales shot up. I would imagine that for all products that are on Shark Tank, whether they get a deal or don't get a deal, you're going to see an extreme or gigantic boost in sales the day it airs, just from being on Shark Tank and having things kind of to the world, open to the world at that point.
Right. So Shark Tank, on the year that we went, I think it was still during the COVID stage,
Yeah.
2021.
Yep, 2021.
Right? Yeah. So that year they didn't do the whole what do you call that? The whole recruiting process where people come and line up. Kind of how you see them when you see people from American Idol lining up to go and sing in front of Simon Cowell, right? So I think for that year, they reached out, each recruiter reached out to these companies. So they reached out to us after looking at our Kickstarter campaign and saying, hey, this is a cool project. Like, we would love for you to come and join us Shark Tank, right? So it's a little bit easier for us to get onto Shark Tank. We weren't competing against, 500 people lining up and pitching in front of these recruiters, right? Or what do you call
like the cast clause or whatnot?
Yeah, right. So, they have picked us for that year. So it was a little bit easier.
Nice.
That being said, when we first received that email, we're like, dude, we're not TV people. Like, are you sure we want to? Like, we were already like kind of like nervous, right? Like, oh no, this is nerve wracking. Do you want to go on Shark Tank? Like, in the beginning, we both said no.
Really?
Yeah, we both said like, you know what? Let's just focus on the marketing and do this and do that, right? But in the end, like, an opportunity like that does not come by.
Well,
you have to, and we told our nerves to just calm down and just take it, and let just go out there and just do it, right? So yeah, luckily we did, because if we didn't, I would have never experienced that kind of huge success that we experienced on the day of. So yeah.
So how was that just experience being in the tank then? Because I watch it, and I know some people are maybe fumbling over their words or just sweating. I had one guy with the turkey trusters; they were just sweating profusely, and it was cool. It was interesting because he said they actually stopped the show, and one of the sharks was like, "Hey man, can we get these guys like a towel to wipe off there?" Because they were dressed in like costumes, like a chicken in a turkey costume, as they were doing their pitches. But they were like sweating profusely, and they had to like stop the taping so that they can get these guys wiped down. But when they didn't show that in the actual taping, but he was just kind of telling me on the interview. So how was it for you guys actually being in the tank and kind of going through it with the shark? I know they cut a lot of that stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, I know I signed an NDA where I'm not allowed to talk about the process or too much what happened. Yeah. All I can say is it was nerve-wracking, obviously. And it just felt surreal. Like, I didn't, even though I saw the sharks in front of me, because of all the lightings and because of the whole backstage, like the way everything is decorated, like, I'm so used to seeing that behind a screen that I felt like I'm still watching it from the screen, but I'm standing right in front of them. But I just felt like, wow, is this real? Is this real? Like, but yeah, and I'm just so afraid of what I can say and what I cannot say, because I know they told me not to talk about the whole experience in Shark Tank, but
no, for sure.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, and especially because it was COVID too. That was the first time. I think that was the first time they asked everyone to come in at 4 a.m. and that was kind of crazy to get tested and everything. So
wow.
So that was the toughest part, because we didn't know what time we were gonna air.
Yep.
We're just, not air. Sorry, go on in front of the sharks.
Sure.
Right, and then we were there since 4 a.m. So it's like we're all tired and a little cracked out. So yeah.
But then you guys end up, it ends up going well enough for you guys to secure a deal with Lori, and then Kevin Hart who was a guest shark on there. Now, again, a lot of people that I have on here who are from, go on Shark Tank, they talk. I mean, obviously people know about, hey, maybe get a deal on TV, but sometimes they don't kind of close or they don't make it to the finish line. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. I know you were talking about Lori saying after the show, hey, do you guys have a patent in China and these other different countries? Did that deal make it through the finish line, or was that something that for one reason or another it just didn't kind of make it across the finish line actually?
Right. You know, I actually don't know, because the last time I spoke to Lori, it was more like, hey, let me know when the patent is ready, right? I think it was very contingent, for Lori at least, it was very contingent based on whether the patent is ready or not.
Right.
And at some point, I was like, okay, I think I could do this on my own. Do I really need... Of course, it'll be even more amazing to have Lori and Kevin Hart.
Yep.
But, you know, we've seen a little, you know, those little moments of success where we're just thinking, maybe we could do this on our own. And, you know, I come from a background where I used to also design for a tech company, right? So from that tech startup company called Fuhu, they created Nabi tablets. They eventually got acquired by Mattel, which is why I ended up transitioning over to Mattel.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But you know, I've had a lot of good mentors from that company. They all have the startup mentality. So you know, getting help from them, and just, you know, some of them now are in Google and some of them are, you know, elsewhere, but, you know, just kind of talking to them and working with them has, you know, helped me, you know, build a stronger company,
Gotcha.
you know, a potential company that can eventually go as high as having Lori and Kevin Hart. You know, till this day, I kind of think about reaching out back to Kevin Hart. I'm not so sure about. I shouldn't say that. Like, you know, can you cut this out? Can you cut this part out?
Yeah, I can cut it out.
Yeah, but it's like, I know Kevin Hart has like 200 million followers. Like, one post can really help me out.
Yeah, for sure. I would imagine, especially with somebody who has that. I mean, again, I think he said it even on the show, like, hey, my background is marketing. What you need for this is marketing. I would imagine that he can kind of really help out in terms of just kind of blasting one post or a few posts out to his social media followers, and that kind of really kind of going a long way for you guys. I mean, that's interesting that it was like, okay, we kind of talked after the show a little bit, and then, because the show was like a couple years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we did the whole the recording on 2021, and then it aired in 2022. But yeah,
for sure. But then it just have like kind of crickets since then. As far as, I mean, obviously, I know you guys haven't reached out, but no one from their team reached out to like, hey, here's the contract, and let's try to finalize.
And look, I feel like Shark Tank alone is such a great platform to help businesses. And I think whether you make a deal in real life at the end or not, it doesn't really matter, because I think what Shark Tank is really there for is to help your business, kick off, and the kind of exposure you get that day when you air it. I feel like you get enough capital just from selling that day that you don't need the $200,000 or $100,000, right?
Sure.
And I think even the Sharks know this. I think they believe that, okay, if we think the idea is great, let's give them a deal, because we don't want to hurt their business, because the idea is good, right? But it doesn't mean their intentions are really to want to give you a deal that day, but they,
No, that's definitely interesting, and I think that's the way it is. You don't want to have a lot of people coming over there and they're like, no, because okay, is this thing really worth it?
Right.
All the Sharks are kind of turning down deals left and right. But I would imagine that just the explosion of publicity that you get from the actual show is enough. Like I said, initially I was mind blown. Like, man, a lot of these deals don't close, but I guess that's just the business side of it. But it seems like it was always at least, hey, we, they sent over a contract, and then, say an entrepreneur, they would look at the contract like, man, I'm not signing this. I'm pretty much give you my company at that point, and therefore that's why the deal doesn't go through. But it's interesting that it was like, okay, just kind of nothing. But I guess it is what it is at that point. But it seems like you said, you guys got what you guys needed to get out of it as far as just the exposure on things. So I guess I maybe wanted to ask you this: what would you say, like, the most challenging thing? And maybe it was just the not causing any infringements. And then on the flip side of that, what was the most, like, the I guess the biggest breakthrough that you guys had with everything? And maybe that was, I guess, going on Shark Tank. Or can you talk about, like, so in other words, the biggest challenge, the biggest challenge that you guys have to go through as far as navigating things, as well as, I guess, the biggest breakthrough with the business?
Yeah. Sorry, I just took a hit out of this bait. I shouldn't have done that while recording. Yeah. Biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenge was dealing with the knockoffs, right? I think it's very difficult to prove, especially with TikTok and like all the social media platforms. Like,
Yep.
it's difficult to prove to people that we are the originals, we are the original inventors, because when they see some Chinese page posting a real TikTok about these little finger chopsticks, they
Yep.
think, oh, China created these,
Right.
and then they see us later on, and sometimes you hear things like, hey, you guys are just, buying those from China, aren't you? It's not the case, right? We have our patents, we have our utility patents, our design patents, and we are doing takedowns every single year. So, that's challenging. And obviously when China's doing it, they are not considering, like, these customers that are looking through social media, they don't consider that we actually care about what goes inside your mouth, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So we go through vigorous testing. We make sure that this whole material is FDA compliant. It's BPA free. It's dishwasher safe. It's gonna go on your mouth, so it's safe, right? You don't see those kind of claims being written down on our knockoffs or the competitors. They never claim, oh yeah, we're FDA compliant. No, and I think that's why they're able to sell it for freaking 79 cents at Alibaba, right?
Yep.
And it's so frustrating because you do all the work and you put this on Kickstarter, and all they do is grab this image and go boop boop boop. It's so easy for them to just knock it off. It'll take them. It might have taken me 9 months to develop this final prototype, right? But to someone copying me, it only takes them 2 days to just copy it and create a mold, and then, right? So it's kind of devastating, right? It hurts, but at the same time, when people copy you, you have something great. So
I was going to say, it's almost like a badge of honor is the way I look at it, because they're not going to copy something that's not selling, that they don't think is going to, work, or whatever the case may be. So to the extent that there are copycats out there, that's when, like you said, you have something on your hands at that point.
and you'll be shocked at how many listings we took down. To this day, we have over 1,200 listings that we took down.
Wow.
And out of those 1,200 listings, I think it's about 600 or 700 sellers. So they have multiple listings. So there's 1,200 listings, but 700 sellers are, and it's crazy, but they just keep. It's a game of whack-a-mole. Just keep popping up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's a great description of it. A game of whack-a-mole. They pop up, and you have to hit them over the head. And
Yep.
I guess it is what it is at that point. Let me ask you this, as we kind of last couple of questions before we wrap up. So I know you guys, obviously as design engineers, as designers, you guys kind of know that design process, and a lot of times with the businesses, it's pretty interesting, because sometimes people want to see like a new product at some point from the company. Do you guys kind of fall into that trap, or is it like, hey man, we're just going to continue to roll with our main product until the wheels fall off? Or do you guys kind of like, man, we probably should give them a new product, or kind of something similar, or like a different variation, just to kind of keep it fresh and active and on the forefront of things? Is that something that you guys think about?
That's a good question. Like within Snacktiv, right? Like I've thought about, how do I invent something new or create something new within the Snacktiv line, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I haven't experienced a problem where I have to create a solution for it in the stacking category.
Yeah, for sure.
like I mentioned, right? I have to fall in love with the problem to create a solution for it, right? So it's like I don't know if there is a line, of products under the Snacktiv umbrella, but the parent company, which I incorporated as Inubi Inc., the parent company potentially can create these other products because, like me and my buddies, we have like a whole list of like invention ideas that we would love to create, but they all require money. They all require time. So, our focus is to really see Snacktiv succeed, so then we can use some of that capital to start developing these other product ideas, and then it lives under the Inubi company, right? And not the Snacktiv. But as far as Snacktiv goes, I think we're playing around with different colors because we just launched these new colors, the neon series.
Nice.
So you'll see the neon series here. Oh, nice. Here.
Yeah, nice.
Right. So we're playing around with different colors. And we're redoing our travel case. I know our first travel case was horrible, but I think people are going to really appreciate this new travel case because it's going to have a pretty cool feature that I cannot talk about in case China's listening. Yes. Yeah. But, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we have a lot of things on the works. It's just time.
Yeah, time is a big part of it. So I guess probably my final two questions. Number one is, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? Obviously, we talked beforehand about this podcast. Really, I'm trying to kind of get that motivation, that inspiration, that thing to kind of have that person who's listening, who maybe has a product and idea to kind of really get over the hump, kind of put it out into the world and really go through the process and have the confidence of kind of listening to interviews like ours and kind of understanding the IP side of things, but also understanding kind of how to navigate business side of things to be able to bring their product to life. What, I guess, advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
My advice is, there is no real good advice, to be honest. Like every situation is going to be different. Your situation is going to be different. You just have to trust your gut and go with what makes the most sense for you and your business at that moment. Because I might tell you, go and get those design patents today, but for your particular product, a design patent might not make sense.
Yeah,
or,
sure.
So you have to, really just think through what's best for you and what's best for your company and your product, right? Choose your, partners carefully as well, right?
That's a good one.
Right, because you never know, right? If someone just wants to up and leave or, anyways. And I would say, get ready to feel the burn. It hurts to start a business, guys. It hurts. It feels like you're getting punched in the face almost every day. So you have to be willing to take some punches. Yeah.
I like that. So hey, maybe go to the gym and start a boxing club or something to kind of get used to taking the punches. And then I guess the last question is just, how can people get in touch with you? How can people get in touch with what you guys are doing and even kind of purchasing a product? Obviously, once the interview drops, we will list out, I guess, your social media handles and the website name and things like that. But I guess, how can people follow you and kind of what you guys are doing and purchase the product?
Yeah. Our handles are usually the handle mark. Is it what's called handle, or is it at?
Yep.
What's that?
Yep. The at symbol.
The at symbol, the handle symbol. And then Snacktiv, and that's Snacktiv with SNACTIV, V as in vet. And our website is www.snacktiv.com. A lot of people these days prefer the one-day shipping, so we are also on Amazon, and we are also on Walmart if you have a Walmart account. So
nice.
You just have to type in Snacktiv and you'll be able to find us.
Well, no, I definitely appreciate that. And audience, go check out the actual product. I'm going to order one for myself. It looks pretty interesting. Like I said, I might not be able to do it with the hot Cheetos, but I'm a chip connoisseur, so imagine I'm on my laptop a lot. I'm not gaming as much these days, but definitely on my laptop, this is something that I can implement here personally. So audience, definitely go check it out. And continue to follow Kevin's journey. I would imagine that this is not the last time we hear from them. So, all right, audience, you take care. Until next time.
Well, thank you guys.